Throughout this title, we've been able to add calculating formula fields to queries and forms, and to no surprise, you're going to find out that you can add the same thing to a report. So this is a field that actually works something else out. So let's take our RPT Customers All report and look to add in this available space here the age of each of our customers. Now, we don't store the age because that's a moving variable that changes every year, but we do store the fixed value birth date. From somebody's birth date, we can calculate their age. So in design, because we want to make a change to the report itself, this is our little space. We need a new field. So from the controls on the report design tools, design subribbon, we want the text box. We come down into the detail section and click, and we get our unbound box and a label. Well, the label's not much use, so we're going to delete that and actually add our own label to the page header, and that can have age in it. Now, the unbound box is where our formula goes. So we click and then click in, and you'll find that we're actually inside the box, and that's when we can add our formula. So the formula to work out people's ages is equals. You always start the formula with an equals on a report and on a form, but not in a query, equals the integer of another set of open brackets, today's date minus birth date being the field, close brackets, divided by 365.25, close brackets, return. Now that means Access is quite happy with the syntax, whether it's happy that what it's working out. Now if you want to see this formula, you could widen the field, but then you could run out of space on your report. The alternative method is to bring up the properties by double-clicking the border here. That brings up the property sheet. From the Data tab, we can see the control sources here. Just like any other little box that you want to zoom into in Access, it's Shift F2. Open if the wizard occurs, and there's our zoom box. We already know that we can change the font size in here to make things a little more legible, and then you can see the logic. So it's today's date. Take away the birth date, so that's the field within your data that contains the date of birth. All of that is encompassed in brackets so that it carries out the takeaway first. Then we divide by 365.25 to allow for leap years. Because of the 0.25, that will give us some decimal places that we're not interested in. So we place the whole of that formula inside an int function so that we only get the integer value, because that's all we're interested in when we talk about people's ages. So that's okay. Formula looks quite good. Print preview, we'll see if it does look good. And there's our field, 48, 45, 44, 47, giving us the person's age in years, and a couple there at 68. So that's one calculated field, a mathematical formula to work out the age. Obviously, you could carry out any mathematical formula to work things out for your report. Another good useful use of a formula field is for concatenation, which we've also seen previously. But here in our report, you can see the first name and the last name are listed, and they look like data extracted options because we have the first name and then an indeterminate gap depending on how long the first name is, and then the last name. Sometimes you would like to see the first name and last name just together with a single space between. We can do that with a formula field. So in design, we're going to throw away the last name and the first name field simply by deleting them. I'm going to delete one of the labels and then rename the other label just to say name. And then in the space here, we add a new text field. We don't want the label associated with it, so we delete that and make space for our full name field. So we click in and we type our formula. Equals first name, ampersand, open speech marks, space, close speech marks, ampersand, last name. So the ampersand acts as your concatenating glue to stick these two fields together But in between them, we have to stick a space, otherwise we won't get a space between the two fields. One click away to see if Access is happy. You'll see that it's added square brackets to my field names, so that really indicates that it is happy. And then in Print Preview, we see we have the first name and the last name, with simply a space between them. So we're not looking at two columns of information. Because I'm concatenating two fields, there is actually room to put more information in, and we could add the title. So we click back into here, to the beginning equals title, ampersand, speech marks, space, speech marks, ampersand. Make sure we put a space between the title and the first name. And we find there is a syntax error. So it's not happy because I've got an extra little b there, and then click away and it is happy. Title gets square brackets, so Access knows that's a field name. Print Preview, and we find that actually quite a few people do not have titles, but the ones that do, like Mr. Marco Mitha and Mr. Rob Verhoff, get their titles in, as does Mr. Ian Jenkins, and probably just a few others. So that's a concatenated field. Using a new text field, instead of just doing a mathematical formula, we've done a concatenated formula to manipulate some string values to create a new resultant string.